So I've been making videos for clients for approximately 6 years now, and in this video I just wanted to run through what I believe to be the mistakes that I've made over that time. So if you're new to video production and you're watching this video, it might help you to try and cut them out a lot sooner than I did. So jumping in with the first one, and that is using too much slow motion or not using slow motion intentionally. So I remember in the first couple of years shooting all my B-roll for videos in 50 or 100 frames per second, and that in itself is not a huge deal because obviously if you are shooting in 50 or 100 doesn't mean you have to output at half speed or quarter speed. So the problem was that I was actually slowing everything down in the edit and using that slow motion B-roll for the entire edit, when quite often slow motion was actually not needed in the edit. I think if I'm being honest, I was probably a bit too influenced by the whole slow motion trend, which was pretty big a few years ago. All B-roll was just kind of shot in slow motion and used in slow motion. And I think after a while in your edit, it just kind of loses its wow factor. If every single shot is a slow motion shot, it just kind of loses its purpose and becomes repetitive. So, I mean, in the last, I would say 3 years, I've definitely cut the amount of slow motion that I use down, and sometimes I don't even use it at all in videos now if I don't think it's needed. I'm really making a conscious effort to make sure that the clips that I'm using are slowed down for a reason. So an example of that would be if I'm now shooting a wedding, whereas before when I first started, all the B-roll was in slow motion no matter what it was. Now I'm thinking about, okay, what would actually look good in slow motion, because there are certain things such as like the confetti throwing, which looks really good in slow motion because it's such a fast moving act and it happens so quickly that if you can slow that down just to emphasize the moment, that once in a lifetime moment a bit more, and get a few more seconds out of the expressions on people's faces and things like that, then that's where it really does have a great impact. So just having those moments of slow motion, I think, really adds to the visuals and doesn't take anything away. So number 2 is using camera movement intentionally. So I remember in the beginning years, as you do, I bought a course from a filmmaker that I really looked up to, and that filmmaker, he was using a glide cam at the time because there were no gimbals and glide cam was a thing. So he was using his glide cam, and the edit he would put together, for me, it just blew my mind how amazing it was, just because of the camera movement and everything. Everything, camera was just constantly moving and it just looks so good. But I think now looking back on it and looking back at those edits, it's pretty much similar to the whole slow motion thing. And I think after a while, the whole grand, extravagant swooping in and swooping out movements with the glide cam, again, they lose their kind of wow factor and they become repetitive. So it's a similar one to the last point, but basically, yeah, using those large, extravagant camera movements, again, with a bit more intention and selectively. I think what I've realized over the years is like being static, being on a tripod or a monopod can have just as good an effect. And if you've got a static shot with a very nice composition, that can be just as powerful as having a really wildly extravagant moving shot with a glide cam or a gimbal. I think knowing when to use those shots really starts to make a filmmaker stand out from someone who looks a bit amateur to someone who knows what they're doing, because using a tripod and monopod shot might sound simple, but you have to think about many other things like what's actually in your frame. And if you can make a tripod and monopod shot look really good with the way you frame things up and the composition and everything and the depth, then I think that's something that's really struck out to me more over the last few years. And sometimes you just need that static shot because you want the viewer to be able to just take in everything that's in that composition without the camera moving. And sometimes if you're just constantly moving the camera and the composition is moving, then you don't get to take in everything that's in there. So number 3 is using no sound design or very little sound design at all. And I think the moments that I started to realize that my videos started to feel more like films was when I really started to incorporate sound design. Someone like me who had constantly just been thinking about visuals, obsessing over visuals, to then start shifting my mind to thinking, okay, I need to actually start thinking about sounds, recording sounds on site, pulling in sounds in from sound effects websites to be able to build sound design in as well. And what you're hearing can be just as important as what you're seeing, just to make that full like visual immersive experience. In the beginning, it would just be basic stuff like if there was something being poured, I would just put like a water pouring sound effect in the background, and maybe if there's a drone shot to establish, I would do the classic birds chirping sound effects. But I think sound design is just so much more than that. It's like there's so many things you can do with it. There's, you know, stacking sounds on top of each other to really layer them, changing the pitch of them, adding high or low pass filters, and also just messing around with the speed and tempo of them to match the visuals as well. I made a whole video on this a little while ago on using sound design in your videos, so I'll link that down in the description as well if you want to check it out. But essentially that has been one of the biggest mistakes that I probably made in the beginning, and I think a lot of filmmakers probably make that mistake in the beginning because the visuals are the reason why we get into it. But if you want to make a fully immersive video for your clients, adding in that sound is something that they might not even realize that they're hearing these sounds, but all they know is that this is standing out from something that maybe has been made for them before, or other things that they're seeing on the market. So number 4 is not writing down any kind of shot list. And I think in the beginning I just thought, you know what, I'm good enough to be able to either come up with things on the fly or just remember what I was thinking about a few days before. In reality, when you're actually on a shoot and you're on location, things just happen so quickly and they can get quite intense quite quickly. There's so many things to think about, especially if you're a one-man band, run and gun filmmaker, which I do a lot. Even if you think it's going to be the most relaxed day ever, it's really worth just to have, even if it's just notes in your phone, just a skeleton shot list that you can write down and build up on top of, because things happen when you're on a shoot. Like technical things can go wrong, and if you're both the technical camera person and the creative person on a shoot, having those, they're two different parts of your brain really, so having to go in between them can affect your video and affect your performance, I think. So getting a lot of that creative stuff down beforehand can allow you to almost go into autopilot mode when you're on the shoot itself, because you know and you've thought about the shots that you want, and things just become a lot less stressful from my experience. So mistake number 5 I think I made was not getting enough variety of shots. So often a lot of the shoots that I do, if they are weddings, if they are events, things like that, you will be thrown into a room or an area where you just need to start getting some shots and you need to just be thinking on your feet. A lot of the time, I think I would just look for the perfect angle to try and get, let's say, like a flare or a silhouette or something like that. And I'd probably just stick around that area too long and get too many of the same shots, repetitive. And it's nothing more frustrating when you're in the edit and you've got just all these shots that look great, but they're too similar, and you have to basically just select 1 or 2 of them, and then you realize actually you don't have enough variety. So that's really frustrating, and I've been there myself where I'm just like, oh, I feel like I have to put a lot of the same shots in just because I don't have enough of the other things. And then sometimes I might get feedback where it says, okay, the shots are great, but they're a bit too similar. So yeah, just constantly having to tell myself, well, right, okay, I've got that shot now, I've got it in the bag, it looks great, I just need to move on and maybe get a wider angle or a different shot and establishing. Just really start to piece together the edit in my head and realize, do I actually have enough variety? Do I have enough different people in the room? All these things are going to help you so much when you come back into the edit. If you are editing it yourself or if you are handing it over to someone else, it's just going to give them a lot of variety to work with. So the next mistake I think I made is related to the previous one, which is spending too much time getting drone footage. By that, what I mean is I'm creating a video that's not solely a drone video. So for me, having a drone for the first time was amazing, and being able to get that different sort of perspective from the air, everything just looked amazing no matter what it was. Even if it was a car park or something, from the air, having that perspective, it just looked amazing. And I was just spending too much time doing, you know, 1 or 2 batteries up in the air, when basically all that the job required was just 2 or 3 establishing shots. Eventually everything started to look the same anyway, because maybe there wasn't enough there, it was just one building or something. And yeah, because I was obviously getting that much drone footage, maybe 20-30 minutes, when all I needed was 2 or 3 establishing shots. Again, getting back into the edit, because I had all that footage, I kind of felt like I need to include more than just 2 or 3 shots because I've got so much good stuff. But the edit, all it really required was maybe 1-2 establishing shots of the area. And yeah, again, that's just something like I've learned over time, where you need to know your project. And for me, spending all that time, 20-30 minutes getting drone footage when I could have just been able to get it done in 5 minutes, bit of a waste of time on shoot. Maybe on a shoot where you've got a tight schedule, you know, I could have been getting other shots. And again, that's something that I've learned and tried to put right. So number 7 is obsessing over the wrong gear. In the beginning, when I first started making videos and wanting to do this professionally, I didn't really know what I wanted to shoot. I was just shooting anything and everything to gain experience and get better. And of course, in that scenario, you know, you just need a camera and a lens, and you just need the basic stuff. So, you know, obviously that's what I had, and that's what I was working with absolutely fine. After a couple of years, I started to fall into a category of filmmaking that I was doing more and more, which was weddings and events. This meant more than anything, I needed a run and gun style filmmaking and a run and gun type of setup within my gear. So that meant small mirrorless DSLR cameras, that meant small lenses, just light stuff, because I'm going to be constantly shooting throughout the day and probably won't have that many parts of the day where I'll be putting the camera down. So light gimbals, like, you know, monopod, everything just has to be small and light. On top of that as well, whenever I went and traveled to a place, you know, I like to make travel videos, vlogs, things like that. And again, having small stuff, small cameras, small lenses, it just really made life so much easier. And that was the gear that I needed for the type of videos that I was making. Yeah, in the back of my mind, I was always thinking that these cameras that I have, the small mirrorless DSLRs and the small photography lenses that I was using to shoot video, it was just, you know, a stopgap for me until I get enough money together to get the cinema cameras, the FS7s, the C200, all that kind of stuff. That was in my head that, you know, that's where I need to be, and those are the cameras I need. I need the easy rig, I need the cinema prime lenses, all those things, to the point where I was looking at reviews for those things when I wasn't even shooting the kind of videos that required that type of gear. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I was spending too much time obsessing over the wrong things when basically the things I had already with me were completely fine, and I just needed to be happy with the equipment that I have, the Sony mirrorless cameras and small light lenses that were working great for me with the type of videos that I was making and the type of shoots that I was on. Okay, so that brings me to the last one that I want to mention, which is not starting this YouTube channel at the beginning when I probably should have. So looking back, I always really wanted to start a YouTube channel, but I just had that mentality where I thought, I shouldn't have a YouTube channel until I really, really am at a high level and I understand everything there is to know about making video and everything, and I need to be at a certain level to have a YouTube channel and have my voice and give my opinion on things or give advice. Looking back, that's such a big mistake, because, you know, I would definitely tell my past self that just start straight away, because if nothing else, it would have been a great way for me to kind of look back at the early days, you know, just give me that feeling of like, wow, you know, that's how much I've improved from there to now. And there are so many other benefits to it. Getting exposure, for example. Since I've had this YouTube channel, people have reached out to me to, you know, work for them as a freelancer, and couples have, you know, reached out to me to film their wedding day. And as well as that, it's so great to be able to connect with people that are into the same sort of thing as you are, whether it be through comments or them just finding you because maybe they wouldn't be able to find you any other way. And YouTube is, after all, the second largest search engine behind Google. So if nothing else, you know, it's a way for people to find you, even if you didn't want to put your voice out there onto YouTube. But for me as well, like being able to actually give my opinion on things and, let's say, give people, like, share my experiences on how it's been to be in video production and stuff over the years, has been like really rewarding, and I've benefited so much from like watching other people's things and listening to other people, what they say. So yeah, just having your own voice on YouTube is just something that I think is awesome. There we go, guys, that's all I wanted to say in this video. And let me know down in the comments as well, like if you're involved in video production, or if you make videos for a living and stuff for clients. Let me know the kind of mistakes that you were making in the beginning and how you rectified them. It's like really interesting for me to hear those comments. And yeah, like the video if you found it useful, helpful, interesting, entertaining, whatever. And I'll see you next time with a new video, and take care. See ya.